want to send out just one general message to everybody who knows me and just say, when I die,
I'm
if
saving
you
all of the text
share,
messages
if
to
you
share with
share
everyone.
my text messages,
What?
I will come back and I will haunt you, is what I'm going to tell my friends. Don't do that. Friends, don't do that.
Welcome to Rivera and Reeves, a podcast where we break through the bias, report the news, and occasionally trip over our soapboxes while ranting about the headlines.
Every week, we tackle the biggest stories with sharp analysis, unfiltered honesty, and just enough sarcasm to keep it fun.
So pull up a chair, grab your coffee, and join us as we wade through the spin, because the media is trash and we have zero patience for their nonsense. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Rivera and Reeves. I'm Meseidy. I'm here with my friend Rachel. Say hello, Rachel.
Hello, Rachel. Why don't you tell them why you're already just out the gate spicy today, Meseidy?
I came out hot already. I was like, be warned, listeners, I am in a mood, okay?
Yeah.
So much in a mood that we ranted for like 5 to 10 minutes about why I am in a mood and I can't figure out exactly why. And I never hit record. So now the mood that I was in before is escalated because like,
Meseidy, we don't know what we're going to get from Meseidy today. She is in a special place. So.
Okay. And we're under a time constraint. So to summarize, the rant that you missed is that literally everything is crazy. The news cycle is crazy. We have international issues. We have domestic issues. We have an Iran conflict. We have the economy. And Rachel told me that I could log off, which I tried, but as we could see, it went really well.
Well, and what I was going to say right before you realized that you were not recording and may or may not have yelled into your microphone is that what people don't understand, because I get that a lot. I try and take off weekends, especially Sundays. I'm pretty,
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And people are like, you should just take like a 3 or 4 week sabbatical, And well, yes, that sounds wonderful. And I may very well do that. With this line of work specifically, you can feel really rested during those days you have off. But the problem is when your re-entry, the re-entry is nasty because
it's brutal.
So much of the news cycle is predicated on what has happened in the last couple days or weeks. So to be able to put together like concise and coherent thoughts, you have to know what has been happening. And so now when I take a break, if it's, a couple days or like I did at Christmas, I just came back January 1st. I'm like, hi, I'm not going to talk about anything that happened the last couple of weeks. It didn't happen. And we're starting like today is the first day in history because you can't.
Brand new baby.
Yeah. You just can't do it. So I get it. It's almost harder to take a break and have to come back into the fray. So I get it. But right now is especially crazy. I opened up Twitter and there's 700 things I could post about that are actually important that I think people want to hear. It's like, what do you do? What do you pick?
How can you prioritize? Well, and then yesterday, like I actually took the day off yesterday. And then right before I was starting to wind down for the day, I opened up my X feed and Trump is really mad at Israel for dropping some bombs on Iran, which then made Iran drop bombs on Qatar. And that turned into a whole thing. So I'm like, I'm going back. I'm going back to bed.
Yep. I will deal with this tomorrow.
Yes. But what are we going to talk about today? We're going to hit really quick, very short on Joe Kent, Tucker Carlson. Forewarned, we have not watched the podcast, so we're not specifically talking about the podcast, just some peripheral things that need to be addressed. Also, I want to get back to our roots, Rachel, and I want to talk some politics.
Ooh.
In the framework of what just happened with the Illinois primaries, I think is very interesting. And I think it kind of gives us a vision looking forward to 2026. And also the New York Times had a pretty significant report on the labor activist César Chávez. Okay, with a lot of
allegations.
Call him
César? It's César Chávez. It's César Chávez. Okay, and I am from, my home is California, and so César Chávez was like a big deal in California.
Yeah, he's all over the place.
If only for we had a state holiday. So April 1st every year, schools were closed. Like when I was going to college, we had like a statue of César Chávez. We got the day off school. Oh yeah. So
okay. Well, we're going to talk about Senor Chavez.
But it was
later,
not
okay?
César. It's César Chávez is what we called him.
All
of us.
right. Okay. So before we get started with today's episode, if this is your first time here, welcome. You have found your new favorite podcast. Please hit that follow button wherever you're listening. We are on all major podcast apps. Okay. You can also listen to us on YouTube the next day and see our pretty faces, but you're going to be a day late because if you're a paying subscriber on our Substack, you get to see us and listen to us with no ads, no interruption the moment I hit publish. So please consider becoming a paying supporter because you get that. You also get, I think it's next week. Is the first Saturday or the last Saturday of the month.
28th. Yep.
Yeah. So we'll be doing our live, unfiltered, exclusive for our paying subscribers on Substack. So if you want to join us, you want to talk about, you want to ask questions, come hang out with us. Kind of like a Saturday brunchy kind of situation. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's discuss. First of all, we got to talk about, I want to give some information because we had some developments with Joe Kent. So we talked about Joe Kent during the last episode. If you didn't listen, go and listen because I'm not going to recap the entire thing. Also, we talked about Tucker Carlson claiming that he's being investigated by the CIA. Now, we are very well aware that Tucker had Joe Kent last night on his podcast. We haven't watched the episode. I've only watched clips. Most of the clips are irritating me, which might be another contribution to my current state of mind. Okay. But I haven't dug in enough to them in context to really give my opinion. However, we did get some additional information. Yesterday, it was announced that Joe Kent is under FBI investigation and apparently has been under FBI investigation for the last 3 months. So this is before he left. For suspicion of leaking information, sensitive, classified information. Now, I'm a little confused as to how you stay on the job for 3 months if you're being investigated.
Yeah.
Although I do know that reports are that he had been isolated from any kind of sensitive information. He was kept out of briefings. So maybe they isolated him while they were investigating him. He got word about the investigation. I don't know, like, what are you thinking about this investigation into Joe Kent?
I don't know what to make of it yet, if I'm honest. I think you could look at it, depending on what side of the aisle you're on, I think you could look at it either way. You could look at it like, oh, yep, there it is. He was under investigation and he knew that. And so that's why he left. I want to know more about the investigation if it's tied to the whole Signal Gate thing, because I know he was on that Signal chat. So I am curious about that. But I also think you could look at it like, I mean, I don't want to think that they would backdate like investigations to 3 months ago, that the administration would do that.
But I mean, it's fair to be questioning. I mean, yes, we support the administration, but also question the administration.
Yeah,
you know what I
mean? I guess I could look at it. My natural bent would be to look at it like he knew that they were investigating him. He knew he'd been cut out of high profile, briefings and whatnot. And it's kind of like sour grapes. Like, he was ticked off. And now, because his tone, his stature, the way he's carrying himself in podcast 3 months ago looks completely
Very
different than how he was like on Tucker last night. He was more jovial, smiling, happy, basically saying something different than what he's saying now. And he almost looks a little like dead behind the eyes now, or at least under some kind of duress, or like,
I love how you always are like into the body language,
the optics and
interpretation.
It tells us a lot. So I don't know what to make of it. I don't doubt it was happening. I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm just interested in what will eventually come out.
I mean, there's been a lot of speculation and a lot of like theorizing, especially online, because of the timing of the situation, because the reports are that Kent went to JD Vance and Tulsi Gabbard with his resignation letter on Sunday, I think, or sometime over the weekend before Tucker came out with the video about, or around the same time, about him being investigated by the CIA.
Yeah.
Also, on the podcast with Tucker, there was a clip specifically where which I think is interesting, isn't getting as much attention about versus his comments on Israel-Iran conflict, but he was talking about how like he was being prevented from asking questions in the Charlie Kirk assassination. And he even insinuates, with this idea of like, it could have been his opposition to Israel. Like, he's going down that rabbit hole. He's like, I'm not saying, but I wasn't allowed to investigate about, that usual thing, right?
Yep.
Now,
Yep.
I don't know if you remember, but a few months back, some text message was leaked from Andrew, oh my gosh, I forgot his last name, with Turning Point USA. It starts with a K.
Oh,
And
Colvin.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Andrew had submitted his text messages to the FBI or for an investigation, some kind of offices, and then later they were leaked. So some people are speculating that maybe Kent leaked those. They're also speculating that he leaked to Tucker the fact that maybe he was under investigation, or insinuated that he was under investigation by the CIA. And that in those communications, like, they were like, look, you get out, you resign, expose the administration with your letter, because JD Vance and Tulsi Gabbard were like, I really think you need to rethink this letter, which clearly he didn't, because he takes, jabs at the president in it.
Multiple times.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I would point out that this is from JD Vance and Tulsi Gabbard, who may not personally be in agreement with the president. Like, there's definitely signs that they're not in agreement with the president with the Iran conflict personally.
Right.
But they are still aware of their positions within the administration, and they're supporting the commander in chief because he's
the commander in chief.
He's the commander in chief.
Right.
So, but there's a lot of speculation going on that Kent and Carlson kind of coordinated. And now the moment he resigns, he's doing the Tucker Carlson circuit. He's doing this
Catholics for Catholics.
Which apparently isn't like officially affiliated with the Catholic Church. It's
and there's a lot of Catholics online, especially on X, that I'm listening to or that I follow,
that
are like,
not.
No. These people do not speak for Catholics. And I'm actually disappointed to see Matt Walsh on there, even though I know he wants to stay, outside of all the feuding. I actually really like Matt Walsh, and like I'm
wondering if he's seeing, and I don't know, this is me maybe giving him the benefit of the doubt, because I like him. I don't necessarily agree with everything that Matt says. But I'm wondering if he's trying to, I don't know, put himself maybe as like the alternate, because everybody that's on that panel that I've seen so far are, you know what I mean?
Flynn, Candace Owens, Mary Jean Bowler, I think that's how you say her name.
Whatever her name is. Now you have Joe Kent, and Candace is supposed to be interviewing Kent during this.
I heard.
So we'll see what comes out.
Which is, if you think about it, Tucker makes sense. He does. I mean, he's been around for a zillion years and he's got an enormous following. So does Candace. But to pick Candace as the second person who interviewed, like, that's a huge, weird leap to make from, I'm resigning from working in the administration in intelligence and counterterrorism, to I'm going to go on Candace's show. What? It's not a natural segue. And to pick her out of all of the different reputable podcast hosts you could pick, that's a very targeted pick for me. I don't understand it at all.
It's definitely, interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
It's also worth pointing out that the report of the FBI investigation, which has been picked up by other outlets, but it was initially reported by Semaphore.
Yeah.
Which I thought was also very interesting, because Semaphore is not exactly an outlet that loves the administration in any way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's another thing I do want to correct that we said during the previous episode, specifically about Joe Kent. There was a lot of conversation about his current wife having worked for the Gray Zone, which is Mac Blumenthal's outlet, who was very much not a fan of any Republican conservative. I mean, this guy's an apologist essentially for a lot of things. But she didn't work for the Gray Zone. She wrote one article that was published on the Gray Zone that was in support of funding for Ukraine. So, I mean, do with that what you will. But I just want to clarify that she's not employed by the Gray Zone as one of their reporters that does regular contributions. This was like a one-time article. So wanted to correct that state. Okay. So I don't know. We will see how that develops. I don't know. Maybe if we have time and we watch the podcast, it might come up a little bit on the unfiltered episode. I can't make promises that we're going to do any dedicated episode to the podcast unless something else significant comes up.
Happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I do want to talk about some more domestic issues. I want to get back to our roots, Rachel. And our roots is like campaign games, it's politics, it's looking forward. Okay. And so a lot of our listeners may not be aware, unless you live in the state of Illinois, that Illinois just had their primaries.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you a breakdown. So the Illinois primaries results finalized, and this is for U.S. Senate seat. So do you remember, you probably won't forget this, but do you remember an ad campaign by the Lieutenant Governor of Illinois, Juliana Stratton?
Yeah, the one that was like F Trump. Her?
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
I remember that. Mm-hmm. How do you forget that? That's where our politics is now, apparently. That's real sophisticated, real professional.
So Juliana Stratton, Lieutenant Governor of Illinois, was running in the Democrat primary for the U.S. Senate seat. She was completely backed and endorsed by Pritzker and also by Tammy Duckworth, who both appeared in that ad, by the way, which I would love to play for you guys, but literally every other word is F Trump. And I don't want to go through the effort of bleeping out all of the F-bombs in the ad.
You can find it online if you really want to watch it. If you want to understand how low things have descended, especially with the rhetoric on the left, here you go. Here's a perfect example.
Yeah. So she won the nomination for the Senate seat by 40% of the vote, defeating Representative Raj. It's an Indian last name. I'm not going to pronounce it. It's Kash. No, I'm not going to do it. Okay. He had 33%. And then Representative Robin Kelly came in third at 10%. Okay. Now, this is a candidate of 10. Okay. The field was 10. And Stratton was backed by Pritzker, who donated at least $5 million to the Illinois Future PAC, which was then spent that PAC spent $14 million on her behalf.
Okay. Wow.
So, context right there.
Just incredible.
I think what is interesting here is that a lot of people are talking about this race because the interesting thing about these elections is that these are Democrat primaries, and we're again being pitched as if the winners, for example, Stratton, was the moderate pick. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And I want to play for you a clip of Stratton when this was like right before I think this was like the day before the primaries.
I don't believe that this agency can be reformed. I believe that we have to take a whole look at the immigration system as a whole and make sure it's not focused on criminalizing our immigrant neighbors, but rather helping people have a real path to legal citizenship. But this isn't working, and we need people to be held accountable. Here in Illinois, we established the Illinois Accountability Commission because we're going to do just that.
So that's her advocating for the abolishment of ICE.
Right. Yeah.
And
like nothing new necessarily. I just don't feel like that would be what you would run on. Maybe some other talking points about, the problems in your state, not necessarily the whole, why are they doing that? It didn't work for them. The whole, let's get rid of law enforcement. We don't back the blue. Let's get rid of, this did not work before. Why do you think that they're doing it again? I don't understand.
Well, and this is the thing that I'm interested about what's going on here in Illinois specifically. First of all, we're seeing a return to what happened with your governor. Oh, this person ran as a moderate. So they win and then they run as a progressive. And all the signs were there beforehand. But the thing is that they're less crazy than the most crazy. So for example, in these primaries, all of the squad candidates that were uber progressive and very anti-Israel for example, or very pro-Hamas, Palestine, talking points.
Anybody except for their own country that they live in right now.
Correct. None of them won. So they went 0-6. So they had like 6 candidates or 6 races that they were going through. I had to double check. And none of them won. Instead, who won were the people who were considered moderates. And they're considered moderates, basically, it seems like, because they're just not blatantly, they're not anti-Semite, or they're not blatantly anti-Semite, or
they haven't been in national news enough for us to know that they're crazy, so they can run as a moderate. Like Abigail Spanberger could run as a moderate because she didn't have the name recognition as, say, like Winsome Sears or some other people. I mean, she has name recognition, but I don't think people understood the severity to her progressive ideology. And then once she got in, she's like, fooled you, and just is going crazy. So yeah. And so with this gal, that might be, I just don't know. I think it's really, really interesting, but I think that the return to normalcy is what Democrats are observing that they're going to have to trend towards, because the go woke or go broke thing is not working for them. And they really want to win the midterms.
Yeah. And I get that this is my thing. I think I'm looking at this towards the midterms. Like, clearly there to me. Now she's running for the Senate. So at some point when you run for Senate, you are running against the administration more than you are versus a representative who really needs to be more focused at the local level. So I kind of can get that, but also I just don't see like the point for, and now this is Illinois, but to me, I think there is an element on the Republican side where they're losing an opportunity. Like, I really think they need to be focusing more on reminding people of the rug being pulled out from under them. Hey, you remember how you voted for Spanberger because you thought she was going to be a moderate? Well, she wasn't. Remember how you voted for Biden because you thought he was going to be a moderate? Well, he wasn't. Now we're being told that Stratton, who is running is running for a U.S. Senate seat, which is most likely to win because this is Illinois, and I don't even know the last time that an Illinois senator was a Republican.
Yeah.
She allegedly is running as the moderate choice when you put her in comparison to the other candidates.
Yeah.
And now she's like on the record about abolishing ICE. And so my question is like, at what point are we going to, I don't know if that's necessarily going to be a bad thing in Illinois, but at some point the Republicans need to be like, just so you realize, this is the mainstream moderate position of the Democrats. And that is not a popular point. And I feel like currently, because of everything that's going on, the Republicans are missing that opportunity.
Yeah, they're losing it. They're losing their what's the word I'm looking? Focus. They're not focused right now. They're focused on kind of putting out fires, which I actually heard someone say something interesting, and I think I completely agree that all these polls are coming out, and I don't mean to take us back to this place, but I think it's pertinent. All these polls are coming out saying that by and large, Republicans and the MAGA base is still with Trump, with the Iran stuff happening. And so a lot of people are saying, and some of those polls actually asked, do you agree with Tucker's and Megyn Kelly's and Candace or whoever, their take on the Iran war? And it was astonishingly low. They were like, no, I don't. And so what this person said was, it's not so much that they're changing everybody's minds about support for Trump or support for this administration collectively. It's that they're shifting the talking points and the narrative. So all of the GOP and Republicans are focused on the infighting and all of the weird stuff they're saying. And so the GOP's having to kind of like put out those fires like, no, you're wrong here. You're wrong here. You're wrong here. And we're focused our discussion and our talking points there when we need to be focused on things that
over here, what I'm talking about right now,
elections, the economy, making people feel like they can afford to be an American right now. And also talking about how crazy the moderate wing of the Democrat Party is. Because, I mean, if people stopped and thought for like 13 seconds, they would see an election ad like Stratton's that's saying F Trump, F Trump, F Trump. And they would realize no moderate candidate would ever run an ad like that. Like, by virtue of you running that ad, you are signaling and telling us outright, you're saying the quiet part out loud, that you are an extremist. Like, you are extreme in your beliefs, because no moderate would say so. No, like, I don't, what's the word? Not sophisticated, but professional, or,
like a polished, like someone who's savvy,
like,
in the sense of,
just
messaging.
not kind of a loud blowhard. Like, who talks like that, and or who thinks it's going to be advantageous? Who do you think you're reaching by putting out an ad like that? And so we need Republicans who are willing to say and focus on the issues. I know we all get trapped a little bit in the discussing the cultural ethos over here that's happening with the podcast wars and the feuding and the craziness, but we got to stay on message and on topic. And right now that's going, hey, this chick is a little nuts, and she ran an ad saying F the president like 15 times. Is that what we want for a moderate candidate? Because if that's moderate, the lefties are going to be real lefty.
The problem that we're having, because like I was listening to the huddle this morning with with Spicer and Dan Turnentine, and they were kind of talking about this specifically. And I think, like Spicer said, maybe the administration needs to have these podcasters to come in and be like, look, this is what we're talking about. Can we get your help in this? Like they did, and how they assisted over the election.
Yeah.
And I think that is a very Pollyannish kind of.
I was going to say, those podcasters right now are like, no, we've got the American public. I mean, they don't, but they have the attention of everybody, and they're not going to take marching orders, even if it's straight from Trump. They're not going to.
Exactly. So, I would say significantly, there's no question that they helped with the messaging over the election. Yeah. And I think that right now their concerns, like they'll claim it's about,
America.
I call bogus.
BS,
no, it's about your numbers, and it's about your recognition. And I really think
they're raking it in. They're doing very, very, very good.
I really think
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just think that the guidance should be coming from the administration, from the top. We should be hearing it from James Blair and Susie Wiles. And I think that's what they want to focus on. It's just really hard to get above that the noise of the conflict in Iran, and also the economy concerns and everything, which are also very valid. But I mean, I just feel like there's a lost opportunity here. And I think a lot of people are getting hosed, because if you were to look at the polls in general, like normal, because the fact is that ad of F Trump, that is to the base. That's to get the base riled up. And when you have 10 people in the primaries, well, then that's the type of message that you need to put out to get your base to come out and vote for you.
Fired up.
That's not gonna, I can't imagine, especially, I mean, maybe in the state of Illinois, but I don't think you can replicate that same strategy in other states and still win when you need the independent vote now.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, the independents are just looking for people that are less crazy. And Abolish ICE is definitely crazy. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I don't know what the administration is going to do.
Or maybe they just don't think that maybe some of these smaller elections are that big of a deal, so they almost don't want to draw attention to it. I don't know if that's their goal. I don't know if they understand how effective some of that messaging is, and how it needs to be pointed out, even at the smallest levels. I mean, what she was running for is not no big deal. I mean, it's a big deal if that's like, if they find that messaging like that works. I mean, where's the administration needs to be, they need to be talking about it. And talk about how embarrassing it is for national politics, actually, because they're always on Trump, rightfully sometimes, about some of his rhetoric. Well, this is a perfect example where Trump could have been like, what? Look at how much money you gave to this.
They're like, well, you started it with like, I mean, let's be honest,
but still,
that's the problem.
But still.
So I do think another thing that I wanted to bring up, and this is just kind of like, this is minutia, you guys, okay? This is minutia.
Niche.
And
very niche.
This is niche. And even Rachel may not be aware of this, because it happened in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
So Virginia special election, District 98. No. I'm thinking Virginia House of Delegates 98. So this is at the state level. Okay. This district, which was held by a Republican previously, granted, but it swung like, I don't know, like 30 points, like significantly towards a Republican. So Andrew Rice won at 62.5%. It was previously held by a Republican who had won by 54.6%. But if you look at it from the numbers compared to Spamberger, for example, like if you were to take her point and how much it swung over, like from Democrat to Republican, we're looking at like over 20 points there. Where, do you understand what I'm saying? So like, and I think that might be a response to the fact that
Spamberger, because people are afraid, because she's talking about like sweeping legislation. This isn't just like, I'm going to tax you more for pet projects. This is, I'm going to take away your guns. We're going to limit your purchasing abilities for, firearms. We're going to be,
we're not going to prosecute violent criminals.
Right. We're also going to tax like these 75 new things. We're going to tax, if you buy a lawnmower, your taxes are going up, like weird, stupid, like small details that add up in the aggregate. And you're like, oh my gosh, this lady's crazy. And I think that this is an answer to that, where people are like, well, I can't control the state, but I can have some kind of limited control on my little, city and my community. And people are just like,
and
nervous.
The same thing happened in a really niche, like in Prince Williams County, the Board of Supervisors, they elected their first Republican in 40 years.
Wow.
Which is like kind of crazy.
Yeah,
so,
that is.
I think at a very granular level, you might be seeing a response, but in order to get this to the point where you can maintain the House, or which is like difficult to begin with historically, but especially protect the Senate, like I really feel like the administration needs to get on the ball about this. And in this entire context, this one is really good. So Pritzker has been running around since Stratton won. He's been running around basically like he won, because he also won his his primary. But
this guy,
of course, I mean, if he's running for another term as a Democrat in Illinois, the likelihood of him losing to the Republican is like next to nothing. So he's basically, he won his primary and he's basically like, I won, I'll be governor again. And he's running around promoting also Stratton like it was his win because it was his endorsement. I want to share. So this is, I think it's really funny. This is Mark Halperin talking about Pritzker's win. What is it playing for you?
The results in Illinois last night, not a great night for AIPAC, not a great night for super progressives, but they're mixed overall. But everybody's saying one thing definitively: great night for Governor Pritzker. He won unopposed re-election, nominated to run for a third term. But his candidate, his lieutenant governor, won pretty easily a primary to be the next senator from Illinois, so she will be. Here's Governor Pritzker, I would say just auditioning for Larry and Melissa to be the Democrats' nominee for president in 2028 with his victory speech last night. Please roll that. 111.
Friends, this is the fight of our lives. Everything we care about is under siege from Washington. Right now, grifters of corruption and selfishness, purveyors of bigotry and hatred, have taken control of the White House and the Congress. Their purpose is to make themselves and their dear leader richer, and to do it at the expense of the powerless and the most vulnerable. The carnival barker-in-chief. Oh, sorry, I meant the commander-in-thief.
Oh, you're hilarious. Oh my gosh.
There's no federal money for health care and food assistance for families in need. We have challenges and opportunities ahead, but we will have to fight for our future. So I have just one question for you, Illinois.
Are you ready?
Are you ready for the fight? Are you ready for the fight? I am too. Let's go get them. Thank you all very much.
All right. I have nothing against the guy. I am embarrassed
Why?
he's number 3 on my
No.
March rankings, 8 for 28. Because except for being a billionaire, so he can write checks, I do not get why this guy, my sources think this guy can be the nominee. I just don't get.
So he's been talking about, he shares like periodically who he thinks is going to be the nominee for the Democrats, right?
Yeah.
Gavin
Yeah.
Newsom is in there. Pritzker's in there. Recently, he suggested that even Buttigieg might be there, and he actually could possibly win, which I thought was like hilarious and kind of insane. But first of all, it is clear to me that Pritzker is wanting to run for president. First of all, he's losing weight. Have you noticed that?
Oh yeah, we talked about this. He's on Ozempic, right?
To me, he's on something because he is definitely losing
He's
the
thinning
weight.
out. He's thinning
Yeah,
out.
but then later, he was also recently did an interview with the New York Times with Lulu. Let me play that with you.
What does a Project 2029 agenda look like for you?
I don't think you can speak of it in shorthand, but I'll just say a couple of things that I think are absolutely necessary. One is we've got to restore the rule of law, and that means holding people accountable who've broken the law. I'm talking about in this administration, when we get a new one, the people in this administration who've broken the law and federal agents who've broken the law need to be held accountable.
And that means criminally prosecuted.
Criminally prosecuted, civilly prosecuted, whatever it is that we can do, right? It may be that you can't criminally prosecute somebody, but that you can go after them civilly.
I'd like to hear your thoughts on Pritzker as potential candidate.
I mean,
do you think this is a strategy that's going to help the Democrats as we like move towards the midterms and eventually
talking
towards
about
the election?
future prosecutions?
Yeah, future prosecutions, the name calling, I'm not really concerned about. Obviously, the name calling has become a thing. Gavin Newsom does the name calling. The president does the name calling. Unfortunately, the name calling is what we have descended into. And I'm not even going to be upset about it from the Democrats necessarily because the president, frankly, started it, you know?
I hate it no matter who it is. It's all ridiculous and childish to me. They sound like toddlers, especially when it's guys. Women, it grates on me like nails on a chalkboard when they get out of control of their emotions and they start getting the real like high pitched thing and they can't like stop and breathe for a second and make a rational statement. That's what annoys me. But men, especially when they're name calling and cursing, I don't like the cursing either. It really bothers me. I think that there's been but I mean, everybody just thinks it's normal now. But there were years and years and years of political jabs being traded between presidents and Congress members, and they never had to cuss for it to be effective or funny or pointed. They were able to maintain some level of professionalism. We just have lost that completely. As far as Pritzker goes, I just see him as such a bland candidate. I like disagree with everything he stands for, but it's not even that I mean, there's other candidates who are Democrats that I don't agree with, but I'm like, they'd make a great candidate. No, there's not a lot of them
so who
now.
would you put as like for the Democrat nomination? Like, who do you think is most likely, maybe like a top 3 potential? Because I know who wants to be, but the thing is that I don't feel like their bench is strong enough. Like, I don't think their bench can withstand a Rubio or a JD Vance, or I mean, it could be my own delusions or whatever, my own biases. But I mean, who do they have? They have
Gavin Newsom, and I know that, I mean, I'm from California, lived there for almost 4 decades, so I have no love lost, and he is a horrible governor. However, if you haven't lived in California, I know everybody likes to say California is the worst, but they also have a lot of really specific talking points that sell to other blue states around the country. Yeah. I mean, they have a huge GDP. That's about all I can think of right now. But they do have some talking points, and he is slick and he is attractive and he has the whole, like, I'm the common man type of thing. And I'm here for you. And I'm like
Argyle
you.
socks in high school.
Yeah. And his hands that he's always doing the hand motions, but he is relatable in that sense. He's interesting, whereas Pritzker, I'm like, he just is every run of the mill. Like,
I also find it fascinating.
Candidate.
that there is a contingent within the Democrat Party that are pushing Pritzker because he has so many points against him. First of all, he has not run the state well.
Well, he's a billionaire too. What happened to them not liking rich people?
A Hyatt, just in case if nobody knows this, he's like he's part of the Hyatt family. Like he has billions of dollars. He is using his money to influence. And, you want to talk about the grass, like, look, I'm completely fine with the fact that the most progressive squad part candidates of the party, none of them won in Illinois. I'm totally fine with that. Okay. However, I'm kind of a little surprised that he pushed so much money in to ice those people out because he saw them as a problem. But he's not exactly like his candidates aren't exactly great and moderate. And he's obviously trying to use the people that he helped win as to be like, look, I have a good picker. I have a lot of influence. I have a lot of money. I should be your nominee for the Democrat Party. But if we're going to be honest, nobody that short, Jewish,
has ever been the president,
overweight, has ever won a Democrat nomination.
No, and I don't. I mean, he might be in the primary. Fine. I say the more, the merrier for the Democrat primary.
Absolutely.
They'll all eat their own, which is fine. I don't think someone like Josh Shapiro is going to get in. I just don't. I don't think that, and they're going to put a Jew in office, and they're not going to run him. He's white, and he's a male, and he's Jewish, and it's just not going to happen. I could see them maybe putting forward like Andy Beshear. I don't know. I heard Pete Buttigieg, which great, run him, please, 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 please.
I think the idea of a Buttigieg is not insane.
No, I don't think it's insane, and it'd be great for us, like 1,000%. Especially if he ran against someone like Rubio, he would eat him for lunch. Like he has no chops. He's done nothing, and Vance too. And just seeing them stand on the stage, Vance is so tall and, bigger than him, and Pete's just a little guy. So that would be fun. I do have an outside thought that I don't think that the Democrat Party will do it, but I can see them doing it if they feel like they have no other option. If they're left with someone like Kamala, AOC, and Gavin, and they're like, these guys aren't going to win it for us. We need someone who is a little bit more brash, who has experience.
Oh, I know who you're going to say.
You do, and who's a little crazy, and not super polished, but really, really, really smart is Rahm Emanuel.
Yeah,
I can see them
I was
running
about to say the same thing.
Yeah. And I don't think it'd be a bad idea for them either, because he could spar with everybody in debates. He has been around the block. He knows what he's talking about, and he has some interesting ideas. And I believe he is somewhat willing to work across the aisle on certain things. But he also can kind of be a jerk a little bit, which I think that they like. So, I mean, we'll see, but that's an outside.
I agree with you. I think he would be the most interesting, but I think the Democrats are too spineless to put him up. Because
he doesn't have the name recognition as someone like Gavin or AOC, or even for some reason, Pete Buttigieg. And that's just because he was gay and was gay.
Who?
I don't know what else.
Pete Buttigieg or Ron Emanuel? Yeah, okay. I was about to say Ron Emanuel.
That's the only reason. No, the only reason we know Pete Buttigieg is for that reason. Like, honestly, please tell me another reason why we would know him.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is like the only reason I think that he would potentially have the upper hand for the Democrat nomination is that if we were just to follow their history of identity politics, he's former military, he's gay, he's from the Midwest, small town. He's, you know what I mean? Like,
I just think that they're going to make the same what's his name? Tim Walz mistake if they run Pete Buttigieg. It's just not going to,
which I'm like,
it is not going to register. Yes, that's why I want him to be it. But if I was looking for an awesome campaign competition for us to talk about another campaign games, I want someone like Gavin Newsom and Marco. That's who I want to run against each other.
Well, even Rahm Emanuel would be interesting too.
Oh yeah, because that would be a fight for the ages.
And in case our listeners don't even know, they may not even know who the heck Ron, because you got to be kind of like politics in the like nerdville to know who Rahm Emanuel is. He was with the Obama administration. He is in Chicago politics. He, I think, ran Obama's campaign and was also his chief of staff, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And he is a mudslinger too. Like that man knows how to play hard and play a little dirty.
And
so
he's not afraid. He's just not.
no.
He's
So
not
he would
shy.
make very interesting politics. I wouldn't necessarily want us to go up against him, but it would definitely make interesting politics.
It would
for
be
sure.
fun. Yes.
Yeah. So speaking of Democrats, Democrat idols, we got to talk about the New York Times report on César Chávez. Or César Chávez. Sorry, I can't.
César Chávez.
César Chávez.
Sorry.
Okay, so César Chávez. I can't do it. Okay, New York Times published a bombshell investigation yesterday. I mean, I listened to it. It was like a 25-minute listen. Okay.
Wow.
Of César Chávez allegedly having sexually abused women and minors over decades. In case you don't know who Chavez is, in the 1950s, he was the founder of the United Farm Workers Union. Yeah. Huge migrant labor activist, peaked in the 50s and 60s. I think he died in 87, if I'm not mistaken.
I have no idea.
So he's been dead for a long time. Okay. In California specifically, Chavez is like streets named after him, institutions named after him, schools. The President Biden, he had a bronzed bust of Chavez in the Oval Office. I think, like you said, that you guys have, there was like a state holiday.
Yeah, or we would have off school. Like when we moved to Virginia, or not even that, like when I forget, one year I go, Sean, do you have off on Monday? He's like, why would I have off on Monday? I'm like, it's César Chávez Day. He's like, Rachel, that's literally only a thing in California. So it was recognized widely in my state. I know that. So.
Well, so the New York Times comes out with this report, which I think is very interesting because it's like right on the heels of like when the César Chávez celebrations start to happen. Yeah. And there are multiple accusations. So 60 plus, this is what the New York Times has, 60 plus interviews, hundreds of union records, confidential emails, photographs, audio recordings from the UFW board meetings. Also, key accusers are Anna, one girl, we have one that is where Chavez began sexual contact with her during the age of 13 over 4 years.
Yikes.
Rojas, fondled at age 12, sexually assaulted at age 15 in a motel during the California Labor March. And then the biggest one that was reported on is Dolores Huerta.
Exactly. Thank you. Listen.
It feels really uncomfortable, okay?
Well, then imagine how I feel having to compete with your beautiful, luscious accent. When you say César Chávez, like, what am I supposed to do with that? It's César Chávez, okay?
Okay, so she is 96 years old now. She was co-founder of the UFW, close ally of Chavez. She has done speaking engagements. She has been on the circuit. She has been lauded. She is an activist. And she disclosed on a Facebook post after there was like allegations of that he had also assaulted her.
Yeah.
And she disclosed that she was raped by Chavez and emotionally abused by Chavez, that she concealed 2 pregnancies from him and from people around her. And that when she had the babies, she gave the babies over to other families to raise them. Now she has a relationship with them today. But she has been quiet about this for, forever. I think this happened, she's claiming this happened in the 70s.
I wonder if, just a side note, I wonder if those children know their father.
Well, they know now.
Well, yeah, but I wonder if they knew, how long they've known, or if they knew.
Why do I bring up this story? First of all, I have no idea to the extent of the validity of these allegations. I listened to the article, and then some of the evidence that they have is just the women's testimony. There was some documentation of for example, one of the girls, I think at the time that she was 13 years old, wrote a letter to him.
I read that.
If you read between the lines, it sounds very kind of lovey-dovey, and she's wanting his attention. But it doesn't explicitly acknowledge anything had happened, but it does seem inappropriate between a
I have a
13-year-old.
15-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they're not writing that even to a boy their own age who they would have
Yeah.
a crush on, because it's not, no. No.
Well, and if I were to look at it face value, I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
I find these stories plausible, but a lot of people are questioning why so
Yeah.
long? Why
Yes.
so much time?
Why did
And
it
also
take so long?
exactly. And I think it's been kind of wild because the moment that this article came out and people started talking about it,
Mhm.
every Democrat, every organization, all like are immediately distancing themselves or completely cutting ties with Cesar Chavez and
Which
the
is interesting.
organization.
It's almost like they knew, or they're realizing like this toxic stuff. I mean, but it's interesting too, though, because lots of stories have come out about Martin Luther King Jr. too, and his. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some like actual evidence, not just like, a testimony from someone who said they were involved, and not just allegations, but actual evidence of things he did with women. And there's never an effort to kind of,
Distance themselves from Martin Luther King.
no. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, it's really interesting.
To me, it's almost like it took the New York Times to do a news report about something that I
That
would
they all
suspect
they all knew about.
probably knew
Yeah.
to some degree, okay?
Right.
Because the other thing that is worth noting that this article doesn't bring up is Cesar Chavez's affiliation and fascination with the cult Synanon. Have you ever heard about this?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. So in the 1970s, there was, like back in the 70s, everybody's kind of weird. It's
Well,
California. And
everybody was high.
yeah, and there was
The
all of
whole
these like
decade.
new agey
Yes.
cults and groups and everything like that.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Cesar Chavez became fascinated with Synanon, and they're a California-based organization that began as a drug rehabilitation program and
Mhm.
evolved into this like communal group that was
Okay.
led by Charles Dietrich. Okay.
Mm. Okay.
And he got obsessed with this organization. He found it really interesting how they ran things, how they dealt with dissent, for
Okay.
example. And he started
Mhm.
to internalize these things and use them with members in the UFW, which then makes me think if a lot of these young women were being subject to these practices,
Yeah.
then that would add another element as to maybe why they were quiet.
Mhm.
So to give you like a bit of background on Synanon, they had this model, they had this idea, it was called the game. And so
Mhm.
the game was like, and actually, if you're very interested in this, there's an HBO documentary on Synanon and how they would use this practice specifically called the game. And so they
Yep.
would gather everybody together and they would basically insult and berate. It was like tough love to the extreme. So it was intense group sessions where participants would verbally attack and humiliate a person who was exposing and confessing like flaws or they felt guilty. And to the point where like they're berated so much that they're almost berated into admitting guilt. You know what I mean? Even if they
Yikes.
didn't do anything. It's like
Yeah.
people suspect it. And so it was almost like
Uh-huh.
this like struggle session. And there's several reports and books that say that Chavez began to use this at the compound
Mm.
La
Mhm.
Paz in California. And this article specifically talks a lot about how these young women were at that compound. So,
So, yeah.
when people start to talk about like why was it kept quiet so long, I think there's first of all, you have to think about the times that we were in. We're talking about
Yes.
the 70s, 60s, sometimes as far back as the 50s. You're also talking about, and I hate to denigrate my own people, but you're also talking about the Latin culture, which is incredibly uh chauvinistic, especially back in
Mhm.
that time. Like you
Yeah.
think things were chauvinistic back then, go
Mhm.
into the Latin community and see how much more
Yeah. Okay.
escalated
Yep.
it was, like
Mhm.
the way just the culture
So
was.
there was more of a culture of submission, like,
Oh, yeah,
women were, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
and
that
still
makes for a breeding ground for, like, the cultish behavior with the hierarchy and viewing the leader as a god, and so everybody wants access, and if you have access, and you especially if you're a child, you're easily
Mhm.
manipulated, and, he could have probably had his pick of the litter. He could have done whatever he wanted. Yeah.
Well, and I just think that was interesting because I didn't see, as I read the article, I was in my investigation afterwards that I learned about his affiliation with this, or his fascination, I should say, with this group, and how he saw Dietrich as like a mentor and took what he did with his organization and then applied it to the UFW. And a lot of people, you know, there are reports that led to a lot of tension within the organization, a lot of like paranoia, purges of staff and organizers accusing each other of disloyalty, which kind of makes me think about, like, don't you often see that anyways in a little bit of like a communist socialist circle? You see that all the time.
Yeah.
So
well, and in California, like at that time as well, he was viewed as kind of like a god, even if he wasn't, you know, playing mind control vis-a-vis some of these practices from Dietrich. Like, he was kind of known, and people like aspired to be around him and with him. And in this movement, it was this growing, huge movement in the state. And so he was going to have natural like access and ability to have really kind of any
his pick of
a relationship with anybody, because people aspired to be like him. He was inspirational to people, but then they wanted to be around him. They wanted to be part of this new, you know, labor movement in the state. It was huge.
I just think what's fascinating to me, or I don't even know if fascinating is the right word, but it's just like, it's a pattern with Democrat, like people that they idolize someone, like you mentioned, Martin Luther King, or, and for granted, Martin Luther King is idolized broadly, and a lot of people don't realize his background, and that he was a communist, and it was like the ends justify the means, and you know, he was a philanderer, an adulterer, like all kinds of things. And now we also see, and you know, he sexually assaulted women too, and you see the same thing now with César Chávez. But now the only reason I think that they're so quick to, first of all, for the New York Times to report on it, but to burn the bridges, so to speak, is because of the political dynamic that we're in right now, because of the Trump administration and the immigration issue. And let's be honest, Chavez was not exactly a supporter of illegal immigration. He was actually a huge advocate against illegal immigration. So, you know, I don't know, like it's like
convenient timing. It's convenient timing.
It's convenient timing.
These are the kind of questions I have. Like, I want to know how long Huerta's children knew, if they knew. I want to know how long the New York Times has been sitting on this investigation, if they knew about it in the last couple of years, but they're like, there's no time. You know, oh, we need more time to research it, you know, because it is a better time for something like this to come out. These are the questions I want answered.
So, I don't know, we'll see how I think it's the response has been fascinating. And I think, and for me personally, even though I believe the stories, like my instinct says to believe these stories, I don't like the fact that this man is dead.
Yes.
And he
doesn't
can't
have
defend
to answer
himself
for anything. Well, and he doesn't have to answer for anything either.
And so, like, okay, now we can all get on the same page. We can all call ourselves victims. We could all demonize and like ruin this man's reputation. Not even one that I necessarily want to protect. But again, we're in this position of, oh, okay, how convenient that it comes out now that he's long dead and he can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I know.
You know, like that keeps happening. It's like we all just get on board.
I keep thinking about that, how we're treating the dead all the time since Charlie died. Everybody is like, everybody's dropping texts that they had with him, letters he wrote them. I want to send out just one general message to everybody who knows me and just say, when I die,
I'm saving all of the text messages to share with everyone.
My text messages. I will come back and I will haunt you, is what I'm going to tell my friends. Don't do that. Friends, don't do that. If you are that good of a friend with someone, you don't need to release the text messages for people to know. Like, stop doing that. Stop talking on his behalf. You know, so I'm with you on this whole, like, how we treat the people who have passed. It really says something about us. So I don't know, but I still want a full investigation of this for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm just irked by the response of people to immediately, I think it's more that, like, I think it's the immediate reaction of some to be like, oh, you've been accused, you can't defend yourself,
He's
but
guilty by, yeah.
he's guilty because it's going to reflect negatively on me. So let me immediately like toss you in the dumpster and be done with you. And then also I'm like, are we going to do the same thing with him that we've done with other people? Like, are we going to do guilt by association? So who knew?
I mean,
how many people knew? Why aren't we questioning them? Are we going to do a deep investigation and release all the documents on them and then just declare everybody guilty by association, regardless of whether it was like a Post-it note or a actual meeting or something like that? Like,
I'm interested. There's like about, oh gosh, I wrote about it in the Dawn Dispatch this morning. I think that there's approximately 70 schools nationwide named after César Chávez. So I'm like, are we taking those names down? Because we've stripped them from George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Stonewall Jackson. We got rid of Robert E. Lee stuff in my state. We got rid of, I mean, all kinds of these, past historical figures. Are we getting rid of César Chávez? I'm interested. Like, I want to know what's going to happen there. But I do know that California kept most of their César Chávez celebrations ongoing because they're happening like next week and they haven't canceled them. I guess they said that they're not going to.
Well, and then the question is like, are people going to show up for them?
Yeah. Or are they going to show up and like protest or start fights?
What happened to the UFW also? Yeah. Like, I'd be interested. Like, it's like Planned Parenthood. You know what I mean? Like, you were founded by a eugenicist and you're like so opposed by it, but now like you're like, well, it's just soft pedal how horrible she was.
She had some good ideas, just not the killing, Black people, anyone who's not white. that one wasn't great.
And I'm with you in the whole, like, which is one of the reasons I think I've been irritated. Like, I'm really annoyed with people like putting words in the mouth of the dead and they have no way to defend themselves or speak for themselves. And then even like specifically like in regards to Charlie, like even Erica is going through the ringer right now and she can't exactly pop her head out and say anything either. Do you know what I mean? Because if she does, that stirs up a whole other.
Okay, hold on. I just got a
breaking news.
Well, from New York Times about, and it's gone. Like, I don't know how to see you're going to think this is hilarious, but I don't know how, like, when I get a thing on my phone that says New York Times, whatever, unless I click on it that minute, I don't know how to scroll back
swipe
to
down.
See that. No. Anyways, it was about César Chávez. You like how I said that right there? Wait, I can't see, I just swiped down. It doesn't show it to me. Anyways, it was saying that I guess they're going to rename like the farm workers celebration day. California is going to, like, they're already coming out and they're like, he's guilty. We're renaming everything. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they won't have the celebrations next week. Who knows?
I don't know. Things have been crazy. We'll see how that, I'd be interested to see how that pans out and how the Democrats talk about it, because he's been one of their leaders, one of their head champions. Yeah. And now I think it's kind of crazy how they're immediately like, be done with you. Be gone.
I know. Well, but that's the thing is, like, people know that there's such a short attention span for the general public that if they don't come out swiftly, immediately and say what the itching ears want to hear, that they're not going to remember if they sit and do an actual investigation about it,
I think, all right, before we wrap us up, I do want to bring in a reaction for you.
I mean, I had quite a reaction on Tuesday's episode,
which everybody was very much a fan of. But this is Gavin Newsom. Speaking of Newsom, this is Gavin Newsom's wife. Have you seen her?
Oh, the first partner.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
I think that's annoying, by the way. Okay, great.
Okay.
There's so much to learn from same-sex couples who have learned to communicate and who also are like, well, look, someone's got to do the care work in a same-sex male couple. Someone's got to do that. So I'm just going to do it. And this is like, and not be afraid or ashamed, because it's part of being human. We're all on a spectrum, right? It's just how society kind of pushes us and pressures us into these limiting gender roles. But again, the folks on the far right, they're missing is just this, they're living in this silo, this evangelical conservative silo that ultimately is it's just pulling us back as a country to a time and a place where we don't deserve to be, and we're not going to be, because honestly, young women and fathers of daughters are awake now, and they're woke, and they're not going to let us go back. And so I have so much hope because of that. And obviously, California has a huge responsibility to lead.
So
what do you want me to react to? That word salad of platitudes. She said nothing. She said a lot of nothing, just like her husband. I mean, they're perfect for each other. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying if you are potentially going to be running to be the first lady of the United States of America, you need to actually have something to say. Say it with your full chest. She's just like looking at him and like, it's a spectrum and like gender roles and gay people and like,
and the evangelicals are so horrible.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking, she's saying that us evangelicals are taking the country back to a place we don't deserve to. What? When there wasn't like kids transitioning, when children didn't have a 40% literacy rate. I mean, there was all kinds of things I'd love to go back to, quite honestly. But she, you know what she's talking about. It's code for abortion, and
transgender
and gay rights. That's all they have to run on, because their cities and their states are a mess. And that's about it. Like, their states aren't nice to live in, so they've got to run on social issues that still get people inflamed. And like, she has nothing to say. There's nothing to say. Did you want to ask me a question? I don't know what to say.
Literally, I just wanted to share. I was like, this is going to be good.
Going to make Rachel irritated. And honestly, I'm not going to take you seriously if you call yourself a first partner. Goodbye. You're not a partner. My husband's not my partner. He's my husband.
Well, and then that's my question. Okay, so so your husband decides to run for president.
Is she going to be the first partner of the United States? Like, what is the
exactly? Are you going to be annoyed? Are you going to have issue with the gender role of the first lady?
Of course she is, because inherently that's the issue. Every liberal, progressive female I have ever met and had a chance to dialogue with has this internal struggle about gender roles within a marriage. They're dissatisfied if their husband's doing too much, but they're also dissatisfied if their husband's not doing enough, and everything has to be 50-50. It can't be, 100% and 100%, which is really what it ideally should be. It's a struggle session all the time because they're so uncomfortable. Yeah, they're so uncomfortable with, I don't know, intrinsic gender roles the way God made us. We have natural bents to think. That doesn't mean that my husband doesn't wash the dishes, and doesn't mean that I don't sometimes do things that men might naturally do. But
can I just point out that her whole argument of like, we could learn a lot from same-sex couples because it doesn't matter.
What does that have to do with anything?
Like,
well, it can't matter because it's two dudes or two women.
But that's just it. That's my point. It's like, even in those same-sex roles, people take a position within the pair, right? Correct. You have a tendency to have one that, regardless of whether it's both female or both male, one will typically take a certain position or role that might be by some considered a male role, and then one will be a more domestic, nurturing role. Like, you see that all the time, even in same-sex couples. So I don't understand why we have to be like.
Well, also with same-sex couples, there's almost always a female, a more effeminate partner, and a more masculine one. But and it's the same way with like abortion. Like, if it's not a real live being, then why do you have to kill it? Oh, wait, because it's a real live being. Like, they don't understand how they contradict themselves just by like living. It's just a living contradiction. And she just seems like she's just saying all the things she thinks she has to say in order to be accepted and in order to toe the line, but it's really saying nothing at all.
Also, that is the most that I've actually ever heard her speak, and the vocal fry and the California accent is...
Right? I could go there real fast if you want me to. Virginia has changed me for the better, but I still feel it like coming in sometimes.
Honestly, if you had that accent, I would immediately have to end our relationship, because that is one of the accents that drives me most insane. I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up for today's episode. But if you want to hear more and you want us to go a little bit more off the cuff, here's a reminder that we have a live unfiltered episode next Saturday at 11 a.m. That is exclusive for paying subscribers. So please click the link in the show notes. Consider becoming a paying subscriber. You'll get a little bit more of Meseidy and Rachel unfiltered and live. You get to participate.
Who doesn't want that? Come on. Who doesn't want that?
You get to support us. We're not part of the toxic podcast wars, so that will make you feel good.
Yes.
All right. And we will be here again for another episode of Rivera and Reeves on Tuesday. Hopefully, if Chicken Little, the sky doesn't fall. In the meantime, I was like so stressed out today. In the meantime, here's a reminder that the media is trash and we have no tolerance for it. Okay. Bye.
Bye.